Hey, friends! Just so you know, we enjoy the swear word and we rely on good old fashioned humor to get through some seriously dark subject matter. At no time do we intend any disrespect toward the victims or families of the victims in the cases we cover. Also, be sure to listen to the end for a few palate cleansing bloopers to reset your mindset. And with that, we thank you for listening and we hope you enjoy. Hey, friends! Welcome to Crime Will Tell. I'm Carrie here with the Miss Jamie, if you're nasty. Hi!
Oh, hi. How are you doing?
Good. It's officially winter here in
I
Wisconsin. We have
know.
snow. We have snow.
Yes, and it's like
Yeah.
I'm pissed because it's going to be so cold for a while that it's just going to linger. Like I was really hoping there was going to be like a 35-degree day that would melt the shit. No, we're
Mm-mm.
stuck with it.
We're at that time of year where we're longing for 35-degree days. That's
Exactly.
depressing. I'm not a winter fan.
Me either. I hate it.
Yeah. But I'm excited. Do you want to know why? Because
Yes.
tomorrow my parents and I are hitting the road and we're going out to North Dakota to NDSU, where Nate, my oldest, goes to college. And we're going to catch a play that he has designed the lighting and cues for. And it's his very first time doing it. So we're going to go out and catch his
Aw.
inaugural play that he's designed. I'm super proud, Mama. So I just had to brag on him a little bit. I'm so
Aw.
excited. And I get to see him.
Yay.
Well, we have gathered here today to discuss a fucking bonkers case. Okay, it's
Okay.
goddamn bonkers. We've got everything except sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Aw. Favorites.
But just wait, because what happened to this victim is incomprehensible. It's also the circumstances surrounding this event that adds to the gruesomeness.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
you're going to be angry. You're going to be gushing with empathy. You're going to have unbelievable levels of disbelief. You're also going, at some point, the realization is going to set in of the vast intentionality with which this murder was committed.
Okay.
It was very intentional. It was methodically planned. And the individual who planned it is pretty much a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Okay.
So, what are you washing all of my words down with today, my dear?
I think I'm actually tonight, I'm probably just gonna sniff some glue. Um, Try something different. I don't know. No, I'm actually sipping on it's called Bondstone Double Oak Bourbon. And it is really, really good. It's like
Is
got
it?
kind of a sweetness to it, and I'm really enjoying it. So I won't be sniffing glue. What are you sipping on tonight, Carrie?
I got my bottle of Jefferson's Reserve out.
Nice.
It was a long week as we record on Wednesday. So I decided to get Jefferson's Reserve, and it is so good. I haven't had it for a while, and I forgot how tasty. It's got that little spicy afternote. Oh, God,
Mm.
it's so good.
Well, cheers to you, my friend.
Cheers to you. Clink.
Clink.
Mm, 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 mm. I have got a case for you.
Okay, let's do this.
If you tried to pitch this as a movie script, Holly would be like, all right, you're trying too hard. Okay. You're trying to throw too much shit at the board. It's not going to stick. It's too much. So we're going to blip over to the east side of the United States and we're going to land ourselves into Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh,
And you used to live there, right?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're going to go back to June 15th, 1987.
Ooh, okay.
For those of you not familiar with Nashville, Tennessee, in June, it's fucking hot and gross. Okay, we've got mosquitoes going. I'm not going outside. What are you, fucking crazy? It's fucking hot out there. Mosquitoes don't even want to go outside. It's nasty in Tennessee in the summertime. Am I right? You were there. Like,
Yeah,
it's
gross.
pretty fucking gross. A fire breaks out at Emmanuel Church of Christ Oneness Pentecostal. Did you ever see the second Ace Ventura movie with
Yeah,
Jim
like a
Carrey?
bajillion fucking times.
Okay. Remember when he's sitting in like that Tibetan monk monastery on the mountain. And he's like
Yeah.
trying to like commune with oneness and find his spiritual enlightenment with whatever. And so when I was when I was researching this case and I saw that the name of the church where the fire broke out was Emmanuel Church of Christ Oneness, I read it as Emmanuel Church of Christ Oneness, as Mr. Jim Carrey does, but then the Pentecostal at the end. And so I was like, well, I don't really know how to read the Pentecostal into it. But anyway, but the oneness, I'm obsessed. So I'm going to read it like that going forward.
Okay.
So this church was locked, but a fire breaks out. It's full of stuff. It's a lax church. It's an old church. Somebody calls 911. Firefighters rush to the scene, breaking through the smoke and chaos. They're doing their jobs. And then, bam, a blast of water from a fire hose goes through an upper window into the attic of the church. They're doing everything they can to get that fire out. What they don't realize until later is that the placement of where that water landed would turn the investigation on its head later.
Oh, okay.
Because,
Interesting.
yes, it's very interesting. So I'm just going to put that nugget right there.
Okay. Noted.
So a fire breaks out. That splash goes through this upper window into the attic, and it saves a piece of evidence that otherwise would have been destroyed. And had it been destroyed, we would not be having a conversation today about this case. I'm convinced of it.
Huh.
This splash of massive water from the fire hose that landed on a pile of debris in the attic of the church reveals something pretty horrifying. And it's a body. And it's not just burned, this body. Someone has gone to extreme lengths to disguise and hide the ability to identify this body. We'll get into that later. Outside, church members are freaking out. They're panicking, they're crying. Their pastor, John David Terry, nowhere to be found. His car isn't outside the church. He's not home. Nobody knows where he is. People are starting to get scared. People are starting to panic a little bit. Detective Robert Moore enters the scene with the Nashville Police Department. He's the lead investigator on what's now both an arson and a homicide investigation because now they've got a body. And when he climbs into that church attic, he sees what you would expect to see in a church attic. Like there's boxes of paper, old hymnals, Christmas decorations, so a broken pew, like stuff like that. And then he does not. He finds the pile that didn't look right. It just feels off. Investigation Discovery has this program called Grave Secrets. And in one of the episodes, it was this case. And I was like, wait, what? It was so messed up. I was like, how have I not heard about this before? So I started to do some research. And if you do any research into this case, the information that's out there is bonkers. Half of it's not true. It's wild. There's a lot of misinformation out there about this case, and it's mostly about the sensational and more salacious pieces that I think over the years, the few podcasts that may have covered it, or the few newspaper journalists that may have covered it, and even Investigation Discovery's Grave Secret, this over time has kind of embellished parts of it that really aren't all that true. And I'll call out some of those areas. But for those of you listening that like to find some of the source material and kind of dive into our stories in a little bit more detail, you're going to find some confusing and weird information out there that's actually not legitimate. It's not legitimate. It's very weird. Anyway, so Detective Robert Moore is now on the scene. He is now leading both an arson and homicide case. And when he climbs into the attic, he sees these storage items that he would expect, but then a pile he doesn't think belongs there. And it's a pile of like debris, like charred debris that's it's all tangled together, which is various random items. But then stacked on top of this weird debris pile is like 2x4s and pieces of plywood. And they're all like tangled together. And it's all charred and like burned, but not all charred. So he starts to kind of like pull the layers away of this weird looking pile of just collection of shit. And he reveals a rolled up piece of carpet. It's an ominous sign. Anytime there's a detective pulling pieces of debris from a debris pile and they find a rolled up carpet.
Yeah, that's not sus ever. Why you hanging on to that shit?
Listen, it's expensive to go to the dump to get rid of shit. Okay.
I know.
It's
I
expensive.
know. But it's also a pain in the ass to drag it up to the attic.
Yeah. And this is a church that was built a long time ago. I mean, I didn't get into detail of like what it was like to go into the attic or how to get up in there, but I can't imagine that it was like bloop, 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 just walking up a really nice lit set of stairs. I don't think it was, but
I keep thinking you're saying addict.
no, addict. No, attic. An addict. An attic. Am I saying
You keep
addict for attic? Oh my gosh. Everybody listening, please don't be upset that I've been saying addict. Anyway, as Detective Moore is in the attic and he's peeling layers away from this debris pile, he finds this rolled up piece of carpet.
Ugh.
So he rolls the carpet and he finds feet, human feet that are attached to a very large man's body.
Mm.
So he's like, holy shit. Moore has seen a lot of stuff in his career. But he later described that arriving on this scene and investigating the attic and walking through the is it called the sanctuary? I am not a churchgoer, so
I think
the place,
so.
the part with all the pews.
You're asking the wrong gal, but let's go with yes.
Okay, the big part where everybody sits. I think it
Yeah,
might be the sanctuary. I don't know, but that part, when he's walking through there, he said this was the most eeriest crime scene he had ever experienced.
ugh.
So he sees this body. Now, around the body, in this weird charred debris pile, there's no blood. There's no blood stains. There's no blood spatter. There's no sign of struggle. There's nothing to suggest a violent encounter or confrontation happened right there on the spot. But there is one detail that does capture Detective Moore's eye, and that is the belt that is around the body's waist. It's a black belt and is pretty distinctive because it has a buckle that looks custom made. It's gold and black, and it has a gold T on it. That might be an indication of the owner of the belt
Right. Yeah.
because it's so unusual. Okay.
Yeah.
So I've set the scene. Okay. We're going to just put that right here. We're going to meet the two primary players involved in this case. The first one that we're going to meet, his name is James Chester Matheny. Okay.
Okay.
Born November 28th, 1954. He was born in Dayton, Ohio, to James Matheny and Mildred Randolph Matheny. He also had two sisters, two older sisters. Anna Kate was the oldest and then followed by Linda. Family life, pretty normal, pretty ordinary. Not a lot of details, basically no details about his childhood years or his growing up lives or his early adult years. Fast forward a bit, and we see a man who's had a rough patch. Alcohol is James's demon. His alcoholism has gotten to the point now in his life where it has destroyed some things, and he realizes that he's got to do something. So it's a struggle that has taken control of his life, and he no longer has the control to get it under control. But here's the thing. He wanted to desperately. But back then, people that needed help with addictions, they had to go about it in a different way than they do now. And they had less resources available to them. But he really, really, really wanted to turn it around. And he just wasn't interested in giving up. And after his alcohol got a little out of control, he landed in the hospital, the local hospital, for a 5-month rehab stint. And
Oh,
towards the
okay.
end of that 5 months, he was really making plans for the next steps that he was going to do to continue his sobriety after he was released from the hospital. So he really, really, really was at a point where he wanted to get his life back on track and he wanted to get his family back. And at this time in 1987, he was 32 years old. So he was still a very young man. Now entered Teresa Thetford. Now she's a secondary player, but she's a very important player. So she's not the other primary player that we will meet in a moment, but she is a secondary player. But she is important because she is the ex-wife of James Matheny.
Okay.
And James and Teresa were divorced by 1987, but they were on very good terms. And the reason why was because she loved him. She loved him with all her heart and soul, but his alcoholism just tore a wedge between them. And she finally got to the point where she was started to get scared about what might happen to her, to their son, their very young son, who was about 1 at the time, or to him if he couldn't get his alcohol under control. And she thought, well, maybe the only thing that would be a wake up call for him is if I left and I took our son. And that's what she did, because she was like, he needs to get sober. He needs
Good
to
for
get
her.
better. And I
Yeah.
want to help. So James and Teresa were divorced, but they were on good terms. And she had their young son and she was taking care of him, but they lived close by each other. And she'd been watching over James from a distance, making sure he was actually doing the work to get better. They talked every day. He was very active in their son's life, but she realized that sometimes tough love is what people need. And
Yeah.
so she did that to protect herself and her son, but also she kept encouraging him to get the help he needed. She kept encouraging him to get sober. She told him that she believed in him. She told him to stick with the plan. She told him not to give up, and she was there with him every step of the way.
Aw.
Now, one of the things that Matheny did when he was towards the end of his 5-month stint in the hospital for rehab was that he asked Teresa if she would be willing to make a connection between him and the pastor of the church that she went to. He had fallen away from the church and he really wanted to get back to the church to really undergo religious guidance, religious counsel as his way of getting back on the right sober path. A lot of people
Okay.
have done this and a lot of people have experienced success with it. And this was his plan. He really wanted to get back in the church. But back in the 80s, church membership was a thing. It was a little bit more formal and a little bit different. It's my understanding, and maybe this wasn't the case at every church, but we're talking the South in the United States in the 80s. Membership in a church congregation was probably a rite of passage and a bragging card, right? Like, oh, I attend Emmanuel Church Christ of Oneness Pentecost, or whatever the fuck the name of the church was. And maybe it wasn't every church, but at least at this church, if you were a member, then you had connection and contact with the pastor of the church. If you weren't, it wasn't etiquette to just go chat up the pastor of a random church. So he asked her towards the end of his 5 month stay, he's like, hey, Teresa, maybe he called her Terry, maybe he called her TT. I don't know. Let's call her TT. She's such a lovely human. She needs a beautiful nickname. TT's cute.
Beautiful.
Him asking Teresa, his ex wife, hey, would you be willing to put me in contact with the pastor of your church? I would really like to get back to the church. I'm really committed to getting on my feet. Would you do this? She's like, fuck yeah, I would do this. Absolutely. No question. And she right away called her pastor of the church that she went to. Well, the church that she went to was Emmanuel Church of Christ Oneness Pentecostal. Her pastor was Pastor Terry, Pastor John David Terry. She calls Pastor Terry and she's like, hey, listen, my ex-husband is really struggling. His demon on his back right now is alcohol. And he's asked me to ask you if maybe you'd be willing to help him out, give him some religious guidance, point him in the right direction. And of course, Pastor Terry was open to this idea. And he basically told Sister Teresa, listen, Titi, I was thinking about Brother James just now when you called. So it's a sign from above. I will go to Brother James and I will help him in his time of need. Because that's what Pastor Terry did. And I'm sure in 1987, that's how he talked. I don't know. I
Yeah.
like it.
And that's what a good pastor should do. Because if he was like, nah, I got shit to do. Sorry, then
Kind of a
probably shouldn't be a pastor.
fucking fraud. So John David Terry invested some time and energy into James Matheny. And he started having James spend a little bit more time at the church. He really gave him a lot of religious guidance, a lot of religious counsel, started to help him prepare his toolkit for when times got rough during his sobriety journey, because they will. Times get tough. It's a roller coaster.
Yeah,
That's
for
life. It
sure.
is what it is. And Pastor Terry even gave Matheny a job at the church. So now he's gainfully employed. He's a handyman and custodian because Pastor Terry was like, listen, man, like, I'm not a handy guy, but there's a bunch of shit around here that needs to be fixed. So he's like, I could really use your help. You're handy. This is great. And he paid him $10 an hour, which today It's
Damn.
$29 an hour.
Nice.
So, not a fortune, but certainly enough to support himself, get his life back together. He trusted Pastor Terry. He followed Pastor Terry's guidance. I mean, he was committed. He showed up for every single counseling session. He did all the things that Pastor Terry asked him to do. And eventually, it even led him to be baptized.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This baptism was huge, James. It was a massive milestone for him. It was a moment that symbolized a fresh start. It was like turning the page on a new chapter of his life and a chance to leave behind the mistakes and the chaos and the demons and really, really change his mindset and look forward with positivity to the future. Be a good example for his son, make Teresa proud, that kind of thing. Matheny believed in the path that he was on. He believed in the people that were supporting him. He believed in the structure that the church gave him. And fucking A, Pastor Terry, he fucking showed up, man. He showed up and he delivered for Matheny what Matheny needed. And he really showcased what a true, loving pastor is supposed to do with their flock.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. That's exactly how it should be.
So Teresa's watching all of this. She sees her ex-husband get baptized. Now he's in a church. Now he's a congregant member. Now he's going all the time. He's really getting this religious instruction. She's like, fuck yeah, maybe this is the turning point. Okay, first of all, TT, so fucking sweet. This girl probably has never said the F word in her entire life. So I'm definitely paraphrasing. So when June 15th, 1987 rolls around, we have a man, Mr. James Matheny, who's been trying to rebuild himself, steadying his foot in the world, connecting to his family, connecting to the church, and really working hard to leave his demons behind. That's where we are. That's James. That's his life.
Okay.
So now we know who James Matheny is. We are about to meet the next primary player. But let's go back to that sticky day of June 15th, 1987 in Nashville, Tennessee. James Matheny wakes up that morning, probably thinking about the usual stuff we all think about. Maybe he had some breakfast. Maybe he drank some coffee. I don't know. Maybe he did some work around his apartment. Later on, maybe he headed to the church. I don't know. But what we do know is that day on June 15th, he and Pastor Terry were going on a fishing trip together. That's what we do know.
Aw.
That's fact. They were going on a fishing trip together. Enter Pastor Terry, our second primary player of this case.
Okay.
He's gearing up for what seems like a normal day too on June 15th, 1987. He's got sermons to prepare. All right, listen, he's got some counseling sessions. There's some fucked up people out there he's got to fix. All right, maybe he's got some talking in tongues to do. I don't know. Maybe a little work on the church property. Who knows what pastors have
Got to
to do
feed the
in
snakes
1987. Right, exactly.
for the Jubilee. What?
I don't know. Maybe there's jubilees in church. Who could? You know what?
Yeah,
That
there's
sounds
gonna be
happy.
a
I'm going to go
revival?
with it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now, same day, Teresa, Miss Lovely TT, James's ex-wife, they were in touch that morning because they talk a lot. She got in touch with him. She called him. So she called him in that morning, not in a naggy way, but like just she's watching over him. She's just like, how you doing? She's in his corner. She's a support pillar and she's helping him fight his demons. And he assures her, no, girl, everything's fine. I'm good. I got plans for the day. I'm going to go fishing with Pastor Terry. It's going to be fun. It's going to be wonderful. I'll have time to decompress and think. It's great. Nothing unusual. It's a good day. Later, Pastor Terry leaves on what's described to everybody that of a fishing trip. Fishing trip. It's common knowledge.
Fish and chips.
Yeah, this whole circle of people, they all know Pastor Terry and Matheny are going to go out and they're going to go fishing. They're going to just go fishing. They leave together, just two guys heading out for today. Meanwhile, back at the Emmanuel Church of Christ's Oneness Pentecostal, things are quiet until the fucking smoke is noticed. And then the fire flames are noticed. Someone calls 911. Firefighters rush to the scene. So you can like picture it. There's like fucking church on fire and it's eerie. Detective Robert Moore with the Nashville Police Department leading the scene. So he's taking all this in, right? We met him at the start of it. Now we're back to the fire. We've met our players. The first responders notice something odd. That's when somebody's like, hey, I think there's a fucking body in the attic, all this stuff. And when Detective Moore gets up into the attic and he starts removing the debris, then he finds this body. And the body is fucking mutilated.
Mhm.
Okay. There is no head. It's been completely 100% decapitated, and the head is nowhere to be found.
Ugh, okay.
The right arm is missing from just below the elbow, completely gone.
What?
And then Detective Moore noticed that it's like the body had been fucking filleted like a fish because there were patches of skin removed, but he could see remnants of tattoos on the outside of where those patches of skin were removed. And so it was very easy to deduce that somebody literally cut tattoos off this body to avoid
Weird.
identification.
Ugh, okay.
The body wasn't just charred up, it was fucking mutilated. And so Detective Moore is like, holy shit, he's stunned. Okay, he's stunned. He's seen a lot, but this hits a little differently for him. It's a level of
Yeah.
unsettling that he has never experienced before in his entire life. And so from there, the investigation starts to swirl around the details. Okay, we've got a black belt with a gold and black buckle with a T in the middle of it that we know
Mhm.
is unique. The lack of blood or signs of a struggle anywhere in the church or in the attic. The way that the fire spread, we'll get into that later. The strange positioning of items in the attic, which we'll get into later. Every observation basically added more questions than answers for Detective Moore. And he's like, fucking A. Meanwhile, Pastor Terry's wife, Brenda, who's like, holy shit, she's told about the fire of the body. She's also told about the belt. And she's like, yeah, I fucking gave my husband that belt for Father's Day last year. That's my husband's belt. And she's like, oh my God, it's my husband. He's dead. He burned up in this fire in his own church. What happened? Detective Moore, he's got a dead body. He's got clearly an arson. He's got a homicide, no question. There's body parts
Right.
missing and they're nowhere to be found. So Brenda Terry's like, yeah, I gave that belt. So now she's like, holy shit, that's my husband up there. You've got Teresa Thetford, James's ex-wife, who's learning about the fire. She's home on June 15th, 1987. Her mom calls, did you hear about the fucking fire? She's like, what fire? Her mom's like, the fire down at Emmanuel. What the fuck is the name of this church? I cannot. Emmanuel Church of Christ Oneness. Jesus Christ. We're going to call it the church. So anyway, so her mom's going, did you fucking hear about this, the fire at the church? And she's like, my church? And her mom's like, yeah, your church, the church that your ex-husband Matheny works at. Yeah, that church.
Yeah, dummy.
And she's like, well, I talked to Jim this morning, but come to think about it, I haven't heard from him all day.
But if he was fishing,
True, true. There's no cell phones back in 1987. That's true. But she even said, she's like, you know what? I haven't really talked to him. There's a fire. I'm going to go over to his apartment. I'm just going to check things out. So she goes to his apartment. She knocks. No one answers. She lets herself in. This is how close these guys are. So she goes to his apartment. She doesn't find anything out of place. She doesn't find a struggle. She doesn't find a mess. There isn't anything that screams something is off here. And when you see actual police archival photos of Matheny's apartment, it's fucking tidy. It's like put together. It would have been relatively easy for TT to go into that. I love that we gave her nickname TT. TT to go into her ex-husband's apartment and assess whether or not something is missing or if there was a
right? Yeah.
struggle. Nothing. Everything was in order. Everything was in place. There wasn't anything that didn't pass the smell test. It was fine. But outside, interestingly, Pastor Terry's vehicle was found parked near Matheny's apartment. And when I say near, I mean like right outside. And it contained a few items that Detective Moore found. It contained a couple of beer bottles in the back seat on the floor. It
Okay.
contained 2 fishing rods, a small tackle box, all confirming what Brenda Terry had told police that, yep, they were supposed to go fishing. TT told the police the same thing. Yep, they were supposed to go. Everybody, witnesses, everybody, they're supposed to go fishing. They're friends. Like,
They're fucking yeah.
they're fucking fishing. That's why you
Yeah,
found this
everybody
stuff.
fucking knows it.
There were some personal items in there, all confirming what everybody has already learned. Okay, they're together, they're fishing. At this point in the case, the scene is set. One person is dead in the church attic, another is missing. There's a fucking fire, there's a vehicle out of place, and Detective Moore has like a ton of questions. But this is where things start to get really unsettling.
Oh, now? Just now?
Just now.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So we're going to go back up into the attic.
No, we're not, because that's not a thing.
Nope, we're back up in the attic. We cannot get out of the attic. Nope, we're in the attic and we're staying in the attic for just a short period.
Why do you keep saying addict? That's why I said it's not a thing. And you're like, yeah. And then, so we're go back up in the attic.
I think we've learned that I pronounce addict as addict. I think I had a T. I clearly had a T. I've never said the word addict so much in my life. So I had no idea. I'm a grammar shark too. Like that's embarrassing.
I know, that's why it's extra funny to me.
It's not a complete word. It's not a complete word. It's missing a letter. So Detective, okay, so we're going back into the attic. And one of the things that Detective Moore realizes when he's looking down at this body is that this was super fucking intentional. Somebody murdered this person intentionally and then methodically set about removing ways to identify him. Except the left hand was left. The left hand was still attached to the body, and I don't know why. I don't know why. Anyway, the belt leads everybody to think that Pastor Terry has perished in his parish.
But does Pastor Terry have tattoos?
Yeah, we're gonna get to that.
It's driving me crazy.
Yeah. So what do we have here? What do we know? What does Detective Moore know? He's got a fire that just completely gutted a church. We have a charred but not fully burned, unidentified body that's clearly missing body parts. We have another person missing, but we don't know who's who. Vehicles and personal items are scattered in a way that Detective Moore can't make sense of yet. And he's got a shit ton of questions that he doesn't have answers to, but he's trying to start to piece things together. And when he's surveying the fire damage, he's tracing the path of the arsonist based on burn patterns. He had done his investigation inside the church. He went to walk out of the church, and to get out of the church, he just walked down the main aisle in what we're calling the sanctuary. If that's not correct, I apologize, but the big area where the pews are, he's walking through the main aisle of the pews out the front church doors to go out and start investigating the exterior grounds of the church. And as he's walking down the main church aisle that separates each side of the pews, he's noticing light and dark patterns. And it took him a while. It took him a few steps, but he's like, holy shit. He was seeing the burn patterns of the perpetrator as he walked down the main aisle and like swung a gas can back and forth.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Or some kind of
just accelerant marks.
Accelerant marks. Exactly. And he's like, holy shit. So that added to the really fucking eeriness of it because it was like flash burned in time almost. Yeah. So he's like cataloging evidence. He's noting the oddities, the untouched debris, the charred but intact pile, the strange setup, and all of this stuff. But by the end of the day, Detective Moore finally realizes something crucial. That blast of water from the fire truck that went through that window, lucky chance, divine intervention, something else entirely, maybe aliens exist, who knows? It directly hit the pile, the debris pile that was covering the body. That's where that blast of water landed, 100% solely. And that's what saved the pile from being burned up.
Wow, that's wild.
Without that exact landing spot of the blast of fire hose water, the fire would have destroyed the body completely. And investigators would never have even known who that person was, or even if there was a person there at all. Because depending on how fast, hot and long the fire burned would depend on how much bone fragment was left.
I'm gonna call it holy water.
Oh my fucking God. I can't believe I didn't even think of that one. I didn't even think of that one. That's fantastic. So Detective Moore is standing there going, holy shit. There's a lot of holy water and a lot of holy shit here.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a goddamn mess. We've got a death. We've got a disappearance. We've got a fire. We've got Detective Moore trying to like fucking figure it all out. But Detective Moore starts, he pieces it together. And what he knows is one thing for certain. Every item, every footprint, every melted instrument, every strange placement of debris will tell the story. And he was convinced of it. So, that lucky blast of water that hit the pile of debris that was in the attic that was covering the dismembered and horribly mutilated body that still had the left hand, we were able to get fingerprints.
Oh,
Investigators
nice.
were able to get fingerprints. So that left hand is intact. The medical examiner was able to get fingerprints, but this isn't 2025. This is 1987. So we ain't got no CODIS. We ain't got no instant computer database. Fucking just thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of fingerprint fucking cards filed by hand. So they're like, find the prints, match the prints. And the print person is like, fucking hey, I fucking hate my goddamn life. Not perfect, but good enough. So they're sending the prints off. Meanwhile, he's like, all right, I got the fingerprints out. I'm gonna go down to the ME's office. I'm gonna go down to the medical examiner's office. I'm gonna see what's going on with this fucking autopsy. What's going on with this autopsy? And have we learned anything? The medical examiner is examining every clue, and she notices a scar. She notices a scar on this body, and she's like, fuck yeah. Because scars tell stories, and
Oh
stories have
yeah.
medical records. And she's like, fuck yeah. She's like, well, we think this is Pastor Terry. It looks like Pastor Terry. Pastor Terry was a big guy, but there's no head. So I don't know what this guy looks like, but I do know how to get a hold of Pastor Terry's medical records to confirm the scar. So the medical examiner requests Pastor Terry's medical records. And as she's reviewing this, she's realizing she can't find any medical records to validate the scar that she's finding on this body.
Hmm.
Nothing. All right. So
Where was the scar? Were there
it was
any
like in
details
his
about it?
torso area, like in his thoracic cavity area, like our torso, like above your pelvis, but below your armpits.
Okay.
Yeah. And she could not, for the life of her, validate the scar on the body with any sort of surgical procedure that Pastor Terry had received at any point in his life for the medical records that she was able to find. So, could we assume that this is not Pastor Terry? Probably. Maybe
Yeah.
Pastor Terry's alive. Okay, well, then where's Pastor Terry? So, Detective Moore calls TT. Even though Matheny and Teresa Thetford were divorced, she fucking cared for him. She loved him. It's heartbreaking almost because I don't get the impression that she actually ever wanted to divorce him and like tear their family apart. But the alcoholism had gotten so bad that she really had no other choice. Even though she wasn't next of kin per se, Detective Moore really respected TT's place in Matheny's life. And so he kept her up to speed. He kept her up to speed on all the investigation details. He kept her up to speed on all the roadblocks, everything, all the questions that he had, anytime new evidence came into play. And when the new evidence came into play of the scar, he was like, TT, do you know anything about a scar? We got a scar on this body, and we cannot validate this scar with any medical records for Pastor Terry. And she's like, is the scar like by his lungs? And he goes, yeah, that's
Aw.
the general area. And she goes, Jim was hospitalized for a lung condition that resulted in surgery. And he has a pretty noticeable scar on his belly, on his chest. And Detective Moore was like, oh, fuck. So he went back to the medical examiner and he was like, all right, well, I fucking talked to Teresa and she mentioned that James Matheny, her ex husband, the other person that we can't fucking find anywhere, he had some kind of lung procedure that resulted in a surgery that he likely would have a surgical scar from. Maybe you could pull his medical records. So she did, and she was able to match up the scar with the scar on the body. So she took the x-ray that she
Damn.
took in autopsy with the x-ray that was took at the time of the surgery, and with a degree of medical certainty was able to verify that the body that they found in the attic was not Pastor Terry, but it was James Matheny. I'm just going to let that sink in for a moment.
Yeah. Not that I want either of them to be dead, but it's like I'm really pulling for him. God damn it.
Yeah. So Detective Moore is like bitch slapped in the face. And he's like, the missing person, the person everyone is worried about, Pastor Terry, not the body in the church attic. Thank fucking God. And the person you didn't see coming, James Matheny, is the headless, armless victim. Detective Moore has to start over because he started this investigation with, I'm not really sure, but roads are kind of leaning towards Pastor Terry. Well, now we just did an about face. Not only have we confirmed that it's likely, we don't have positive identification yet, but likely the body in the attic is James Matheny. Where the fuck is Pastor Terry? So Moore revisits Brenda Terry, Pastor Terry's wife, and shares the update. Like, we've confirmed that the body in the attic is not your husband. And she's like, oh, thank the Lord. But then the next question is, okay, well, where the
Where
fuck
the
is he?
fuck is he?
TT's processing the same thing. Her ex-husband is now dead. He's brutally murdered. She's somehow, some way going to have to figure out a way to help her son understand this, who's very young. So he'll never remember his daddy. And she has to make sure that the memory stays alive. I have nothing to back this up, but I suspect she was really hoping they could get the family back together after he got his alcoholism under control.
Yeah.
And it starts to sink in that somebody did this to her Jim. Somebody fucking murdered him and then mutilated him in a church. What the
And
fuck?
tried so hard to cover it up.
And Detective Moore is like, all right, well, hey, take a look at my fucking basket full of questions and no answers and try to figure out what to start and how this happened and who was involved and where is Pastor Terry and is he harmed? Is he still alive? Is this a crime of passion? Is this a crime of opportunity? Is this a crime of revenge? What the fuck is going on? What we do know is that we think Matheny is dead. That fact alone turns the case on its head. Now, the more pressing question is, well, fuck, if that's Matheny in the attic, where's Pastor Terry?
And why is that body wearing the pastor's belt?
Right. What the actual
Like, that's a
fuck?
weird fucking piece. Like, they obviously were trying to make it look like it was the past.
They
Like,
were
there's
trying to make it
just
look like it was the pastor who was dead, but it wasn't the pastor. So it was like a sleight of hand or a bait and switch. And then, so remember when I said Detective Morris got a bunch of evidence in play that doesn't make sense? That's what doesn't make
Mhm.
sense. Why is Pastor Terry's belt that he received from his wife on James Matheny's body?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the investigation circles back to the fire because really that's all Detective Moore has right now. So he revisits the church with the first responders. He looks at first responders. He looks at every detail. He's trying to piece together the timeline because for investigators, establishing the timeline is very important to resolving who did what when. Like the timeline is a
Right.
key piece of evidence. That lucky spray of water from the fire hose didn't just preserve the body, it actually preserved what fucking happened. Because Moore started to notice patterns. They had planned this, they were meticulous, they were cold, they were calculated. Then a tip comes in. Fucking weird ass tip.
Oh god.
An anonymous tipster that to date has never been identified claims, calls the district attorney's office, not even police and investigators, but the DA's office, and says, hey, if you're interested, there's a real solid piece of evidence sitting in a storage unit that you might be interested in. And it happens to be unlocked right fucking now. And if you go within the next 2 to 3 hours, you can seize this evidence. But if you wait any longer than that, you'll be shit out of luck. And the
What
DA's
the
office is
fuck?
like, who are you? You're on a need to know basis and you don't need to know. Okay. How do you know? How have you come by this information? Again, you don't need to know that. Essentially, this tipster calls and is like, I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm not going to tell you who I am. I'm going to tell you how I know this information. I'm not going to tell you how I'm involved. If I'm involved, I'm not going to tell you anything. But what I'm going to tell you is that there is a storage unit that has a piece of evidence that will blow your case wide open. This is the address of the storage unit. I'm just saying. Just up to,
Wow.
I'm not telling you what to do.
Was it a male or female? Did they at least know? Could they recognize that even?
That wasn't even in source material.
Wow.
Not a goddamn thing about the
Super
tipster.
anonymous. Damn. It's
I will tell
crazy.
you, I have lost sleep. Not in a weird, unhealthy way, but in a I'm really interested way. Who the fuck was this anonymous tipster?
Yeah.
Who was this person? Because we never find out, but it was this tip along with one other that broke the case open.
Shit. Okay.
So, no explanation, no backstory, just go now and stop asking fucking questions. So, Detective Moore's team rushes to the unit, and what do they find? What do you think they find?
The head.
No, a motorcycle.
Okay.
There was a motorcycle seen idling behind the church on the same day as the fire, June 15th, 1987, but before the fire broke out. A witness
Hmm.
noticed that there was a motorcycle behind the church with its engine running and its light on. And then they noticed somebody driving away on the motorcycle, and then they noticed a fire. And when the police canvassed, they ferreted out this information. We'll get into that a little bit. So Detective Moore's team goes out there, and what do they find? They find this fucking motorcycle, and they're like, ooh, eureka. Tracking the motorcycle leads them to a dealership, a local dealership. And here's the weirdest twist. They were able to figure out who purchased the bike because the dealership still had the sales records. And it was purchased under the name of Jerry Milam. Except Jerry Milam wasn't exactly alive. You see, Jerry Milam died in 1951.
Jesus.
He died in
Okay.
1951 in a boating accident when he was fishing. He was like 7.
Okay.
Okay, so
The
Detective
fuck?
Moore is like, okay, what the fuck?
More questions in my basket.
Then the break from Vanderbilt Hospital comes in. You see, Vanderbilt Hospital located Pastor Terry alive.
Okay.
But when Detective Moore goes down to see Pastor Terry and to question him and be like, dude, what the actual fuck? And are you aware that your church is on fire and there's a dead guy with no head in your church? I'm not sure.
And a dead kid bought a motorcycle. What the fuck?
So glad you're alive, but we have a lot of questions. So Detective
Yeah.
Moore rushes down to Vanderbilt Hospital to ask some questions of Pastor Terry. And when he gets down there, he's like, "Hey, how you doing, buddy? Are you aware that there's a big fucking fire? Your church is basically destroyed. It's gonna take a while to rebuild. You're probably not gonna preach anytime soon. Also, where the fuck have you been? And are you aware that there's a dead guy with no head and arm? Like, just
Yeah. Your
curious.
fishing buddy?
hmm What do you suppose Pastor Terry did? He invoked his right to remain silent and said, "I can't talk to you. My lawyer told me I'm not allowed."
Oh.
And Detective Moore was like, why do you need a lawyer?
Was he like, my lawyer is Jesus?
Listen, I answer to a higher power.
I have Jesus on retainer.
So then Moore is like, hey, do you want any firearms by chance? What he didn't tell Pastor Terry was that his team had already pulled firearms registration records for Pastor Terry and learned that Pastor Terry did indeed own firearms. He owned 4 of them, 3 of which they were able to find when they searched his house. When Vanderbilt Hospital called them and was like, we have Pastor Terry here.
Here, you're looking for this fella.
When Detective Moore went into Pastor Terry's hospital room, he did not recognize him. Pastor Terry had become deeply tan, which I didn't realize it really changes your appearance. But if you're a very pale person and then you go deeply tan, it actually really changes the way you look. And I didn't
Yeah,
realize
yeah.
that. So he did that. It seems so simple, but effective, I guess. I don't know. But he had also, he had shaved his head completely bald. Okay. He had bushy hair before, so that would have been a dramatic change. But he did something interesting that really changed his look. He thinned out his eyebrows
Oh,
because they were bushy and probably
sassy.
a distinctive feature, and he thinned them out. And because of that, when Detective Moore walked into his hospital room, he did not recognize him. He was like, "Oh, I'm sorry.
Wow.
I wanted Pastor Terry's room. Oh, you're Pastor Terry? What the fuck happened to you, dude?"
Yeah, I was looking for a pale, bushy-haired
I was
motherfucker.
looking
Nope,
for not
nope.
like a bald tan guy, but okay. So that's how Detective Moore found Terry in Vanderbilt Hospital, who then said, "I'm not allowed to talk to you. My lawyer told me not to." So he pulls firearms and he's like, "Hey, Pastor Terry, do you have any firearms?" And he's like, "Yeah, I have three." And he's like, "Well, that's interesting because I pulled your firearms registration and I showed that you own four guns. We found three of them. Where's your 38 caliber, Pastor Terry?" And he's like, "I got rid of it." So even though Pastor Terry isn't talking, we have a missing gun now. And he's not accounting for the loss. He's just saying, "I got rid of it." We got a missing gun. Detective Moore doesn't know what that means yet. But what he does know is there's a discrepancy between the firearms registrations and the number of guns that he was able to recover. So every road is now starting for Detective Moore to point to Pastor Terry. What is the clincher is when Detective Moore's team finally gets to the part where they investigate the finances of the church.
Okay.
Because this whole time, Detective Moore is like, "Okay, well, if it was Pastor Cherry, super fucking grateful he's alive and well. But maybe he's also a victim. But if he's not a victim, what the fuck's the motive? Why?
Yeah.
They were friends. Like it doesn't make any sense until they discovered what was going on with the church finances.
Okay.
At the end of the day, Pastor Terry had embezzled a large sum of money to the tune of about $30,000 in 1987,
Shit.
which is probably three times now. That's a lot of
Yeah.
fucking money. And how he did it was pretty clever. Before he became the pastor, the church had engaged in a sale where they purchased a piece of property, but then they never did anything with the property. So then, after Pastor Terry was in charge of the church, he executed a sale of that property. And in the course of that sale, he embezzled around $30,000. So, what I think he did, I'm speculating, but what I think he did was he sold it for a certain price, told the church it was for a different, lower price, and pocketed the difference, is what I think he did.
What a dick.
During questioning, Pastor Terry eventually admits to murdering James Matheny.
Wow.
He explains a little bit, kind of with some detail, but not really, how he lured Matheny to the church on June 15th, 1987, under the guise of, "Hey, let's go on a fishing trip, man. We could both use a break. Been working hard. Let's have some good guy bro bonding time." And once Matheny was inside the church, he figured out some excuse to get him up to the attic. "Hey, my favorite janitor, custodian, handyman, I got something going on in the attic. Would you come up and kind of give me a hand?" "Sure, no problem,
Yeah.
Pastor Terry. I'm happy to."
Mm.
And then once Matheny was inside the attic, Terry shot him in the back of the head. He admitted this at trial. He admitted this to investigators. Then he undressed Matheny, redressed him in his own clothes to make it look like it was him, including his special Father's Day gift belt. And then he set about sawing off James Matheny's head, sawing off his right arm just below the elbow. Feel your arm for a moment, would you? I know everybody listening is now feeling their arm.
Drive safe if you're in the car.
Drive safe, drive safe. Could you imagine sawing through this?
No.
It's disgusting. It's grotesque. He's a goddamn pastor. I don't get it. Don't forget that he cut out patches of Matheny's skin to remove the tattoos that he
Yeah.
had. It's vile. He also confessed to setting the church on fire to cover up what he had done, to create the illusion that he had died in the flames. His whole point was to fake his own death, and he used Matheny as a body double, basically. Every detail he had planned in advance, the placement of his gas cans, the careful removal of identifying body parts, except for that left hand for some fucking unknown reason, the timing of the fire, it was all executed with chilling precision, according to Pastor Terry. His trial begins in 1988. A detail that sticks out to me: the jury didn't just see evidence in a courtroom. They literally incorporated a brief church service into their deliberation. Now, let me just set the scene. Today, 2025, where we live in Northeast Wisconsin, even any major metropolitan area, anywhere in the Northeast or the West, would be fucking weird. The jury doing a church service during deliberation. This is 1987 in the South of the United States. This is probably normal, par for the course, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because they were God-fearing people and they needed to pray because holy hell, this was heavy, or if it was, let's put ourselves in the mindset of the sanctity of a church.
That's bizarre.
Isn't it weird? It just stuck out to me. I
Yeah.
was like, what the fuck? I've never heard of that. But they had a brief church service that was incorporated into their deliberation. All of this was now part of the process of weighing his guilt by the jurors, who deliberated for about 13 hours over the course of 2 days. And they eventually came back with a guilty verdict on Thursday, September 22nd, 1988. And right after the guilty verdict, his sentencing happened and he was sentenced to death.
Wow.
But here's something else that fucking stands out if it's not enough. And even though the evidence was overwhelming, the trial and the circumstances and what Pastor Terry did left such a lasting scar in the community. People adored him. He was adored. He was beloved. So half the congregation was like, nope, I don't believe it. I don't believe for 1 minute my pastor did this. Nope, you're fucking lying. It's a
What?
conspiracy theory. He didn't do this. Nope, I refuse to believe it. And the other half, they were like,
Wow.
are you fucking stupid? He fucking did it, and he's a goddamn murderer. Not only that, he's a gruesome murderer. And he did it in his own church. And then he set his church on fire. He deserves to burn in hell.
We all got duped.
We all got duped. And so the church itself essentially split apart under the weight of this betrayal, under the weight of this horror. And so, what about James Matheny?
Yeah.
So, his funeral took place in his hometown of Dayton, Ohio. Friends and family gathered, saying their goodbyes to a man whose life was stolen in the most horrific of ways. And there was no open casket. So, the family had no chance to stand over him and process their loss in the traditional way. They only had photographs, they only had memories, they only had their current grief that they were going through for closure. Pastor Terry would remain on death row for years. Of course, here in the United States, when someone is sentenced to death, there are automatic appeals that take place. The general time frame for this kind of bullshit that plays out in the courts is around anywhere between like 7 and 12 years, give or take. And of course, this was no exception. And so appeals were filed and et cetera, and yada, yada, yada. And so he was sentenced in 1988. In 2001, all of his appeals, all of those things, was all reaffirmed that his death penalty was not opposed. It was standing strong. It was reaffirmed. He was on death row and he was going to die, but he would never be executed. Because in 2003, motherfucker, at the age of 58, took his own life by hanging himself in his cell at Riverbend Maximum Security Institution in Nashville. Despite the years of investigation and incarceration, he never disclosed exactly where he disposed of Matheny's head and arm. That secret died with him. He did tell police that he put them in a bag, tied the bag off, and he threw the bag in Lake Barkley, which is on the Kentucky-Tennessee border. That's where he alleges that he threw a bag that he put the head and severed arm in. And despite exhaustive search efforts of the lake, Detective Moore and his team were never able to find the head and arm. And to date, they've never been recovered.
So fucking sad.
It is. It's violently sad. Detective Moore, reflecting on the case decades later as he was interviewed for the Grave Secrets episode, he said that even after investigating hundreds of murders over a career spanning more than 20 years, he was a homicide detective for more than 20 fucking years. He said he can recall almost every single solitary detail of this case purely from memory. It fucked him up that bad. So, can we take just a minute to think about the people that were left behind? Because at the end of the day, what's really sad here is not only did James Matheny lose his life, but all the victims of Pastor Terry's decisions are the true
Mhm.
victims as well as James Matheny. He was 32 when he died. He was trying to rebuild his life. He was trying to get sober. He was trying to find a sense of normal after some really fucking rough years. He was doing the hard work and then boom, he's gone. But it wasn't just that he died. It would be different, like car accident or a sudden medical episode that resulted in death. But to die the way that he died, the nature of his death, it added another layer of trauma to
Yeah.
his family, to his friends, to his loved ones. And both of his sisters were still, thank God his parents weren't alive to see this. But both of his sisters, Anna Kate and Linda, they were alive. I believe
Mhm.
Linda is still alive. Anna Kate passed away in 2020, but they were fucking alive in 1987 when this shit happened to their brother. Being able to process this, I don't know that you ever could. Could they ever? I just don't know.
No,
But just to
no.
have a photograph, a funeral service, it's a void. It's a void, and it's the kind of grief that keeps gnawing at you because you're like, this fucking senseless. You don't have
Yeah.
closure. You don't have closure because the why is so fucking senseless. And Detective Moore has talked about that emptiness too. Finding that body, knowing the family would never have that closure because it was so fucking senseless. And even after decades on the job, he says that one image sticks with him, one image from that entire scene: smoke and steam rising from the pews with melted instruments all around him, the chandeliers that had melted from their ceiling structures and collapsed and shattered onto the floor around the pews, and the sight of a body that was deliberately mutilated. He's seen a lot, he just can't get it out of his head. It left a mark
Yeah.
to this day.
Mm.
So he's a victim too.
Yeah, and even like the church members too, the person that they thought that they could go to and confide in and trust more than anyone and get guidance from, and a place that was a safe spot for them. I'm sure a lot of them were baptized there, married there, had attended funerals. Like, not only was that person a deceit to them, like he was just so deceitful and not genuine, and then that like just kind of place of safety and peace for them was stripped away too. And it's like, where did that congregation go after that, the day that it burned down? Like, what did they do after that? I feel sorry for them too.
Yeah, they were victims too. Like there are the ripple, we talk about this all the time, the ripple effects. And then there's Pastor Terry's family. Think about his wife
Yeah.
Brenda, and they had four fucking children.
Oh,
They
no
had
shit.
four children. And to think about like, oh, my husband and the father of my children just decided he was going to start a new life without me and just fake his own death because he embezzled money and he got passed over for a promotion and he has a small penis. Like, whatever. Imagine waking
What
up
a
to the news of a
coward.
fire at your own church, hearing about a body found inside, believing your husband might be dead, and then realizing, holy shit, he's not dead, he's alive. followed by the terror as the investigation unfolds that, oh my God, my husband did this. I
And
can't
now
even
he's bald
imagine.
and fucking tan. What the fuck?
It's impossible to fathom what Brenda and the children went through.
Yeah,
That
that's
he was
awful.
willing to dispose of them so quickly and so readily. Their lives were shattered in an instant. Friends who had admired Pastor Terry for his charisma, for his kindness, for his investment in their well being, just like he did with James Matheny, they were left hurt, confused, and in many cases, they probably felt fucking betrayed. And
Yeah.
also, the one place that people go to week after week for salvation and understanding and someone to hear them and a place of security and safety and sanctity was ripped from them.
Yeah.
The Emmanuel Church didn't survive. It did not survive. The congregation split. People who had trusted Pastor Terry with their spiritual guidance, with their families, their communities, they were forced to reckon with this fucking reality that someone they loved and respected and was a man of the cloth had done this. It's crazy. And at the end of the day, this case is a reminder that trust can be both fucking beautiful and goddamn dangerous, and that people are capable of the most unimaginable things. And they feel like they're backed in a corner. What they can do, it's unimaginable. It's unfathomable. So yeah,
Hmm.
that that's the horrific murder of James Chester Matheny.
Damn.
Wild, heartbreaking, fucking messy. This one angered me because I was like, not only are you in a position of authority, but you're in a position of trust and deference.
You're supposed to be this like beacon of morality that people look to and emulate.
Yes, that's a perfect way to say it.
And he stole, he lied, he killed, how many sins did that motherfucker?
I know. And I think about fucking little 7 or 8 year old Jerry Malone, who died in a boating accident in 1951. His family and their descendants are probably still to this day like, remember Jerry? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and he was
Yeah.
fucking dragged into this because Pastor Terry stole his identity to start a new life. Like, fucking A.
Yeah, it's just
Isn't
on
there a
every
whole
level like it.
process that you go through to be a man or a woman of the cloth? Isn't there like,
Yeah,
don't you have to like pledge and like give your soul? I don't know.
I guess. I mean, I think
I don't
there's
know.
an oath. A secret handshake, I don't fucking know.
I would love for it to be a secret
But you're
handshake,
held to
though.
higher standards, that's for goddamn sure. So
Yeah.
he was a raging disappointment. That sucks.
Huge disappointment. If you found this episode compelling, please share. And if you feel so inclined, don't forget to rate, review, subscribe. We're really trying to make friends with those algorithms. It helps our little show out. And also, don't forget to head over to our website at crimehotelpod.com. It's not at Gmail. That's our email,
Mm-mm. Yeah.
crimehotelpod.com. And grab yourself some merch for that true crime lover in your
Yeah.
life. So, bye, Jamie. Thanks for listening.
Goodbye, Carrie. I wasn't.
That was so awkward.
I'm gonna blow my nose while you're coughing.
Do you think maybe it was my fucking shitty headphones?
It's just your stupid voice.
Were you like,
If I say Jesus, is that the right answer?
I love a good spreadsheet.
Okay. Duly noted.
Motherfucker!
Whoops.
I love it. I love it so much.